Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the SEO Simplified webinar that we're going to do this afternoon. Normally we do these as a lunch and learn, and we get to see everyone face to face, which is wonderful. But obviously, in whatever you want to call these times, unprecedented, new normal, unsettling, the pandemic, now more than ever in these uncertain times, whatever we want to call it, most of us are now working from home, as is the entire webFEAT staff. And it is indeed the new normal. So we're essential. We're considered an essential business. So we are here for you for anything that you might need. We've been remote since March 13th. We decided that that was in the best interest for the safety of our staff. So this webinar will be recorded and will be available to you after the recording. A little bit about webFEAT Complete. We are 21 years old. We've been around before Google, which I like to say, gee, I could have invented Google and missed that opportunity. But we started as a website design company and then evolved into a web design hosting and SEO company. So the SEO, we have a full team of analysts on board and content writers, and everyone is certified and have lots of certifications in order to be able to provide you the best of these services for SEO or social media management or hosting or hacking prevention. There will be some other webinars coming up until we are able to all meet face to face. And those are on the events tab of our website, but the content will be social media. We will do something on geolocation, which if you had the opportunity to come to our webinar on geolocation, we did that at Hyde Park Country Club a couple months ago, and that was a huge success. So we're going to repeat that as a webinar, and then we're also going to do some hosting and website security, a webinar for that. So at this point, I would like to introduce Ray Cheselka, whose name is big and bold on my screen. He's the head of our SEO team. He has every certification known to mankind, so you are in good hands there. And he will be talking about SEO and the importance of what it takes to get your site into the attention of Google and to meet the challenge that we all have of marketing in a pandemic. It's not an easy task. So Ray, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. And can you just confirm that you can hear me really quick?
I can hear you.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to take your video off here and mute that audio. Then we'll go ahead and share a screen here for you. And one more quick item here. I think I got to turn that on. And I think maybe we'll all now be able to see my video. So hi, everybody. And I'm just going to check the, there we go. All right, so this is SEO Uncomplicated. Thank you all for tuning in here. Just having a little technical difficulty switching this guy. There it is. All right, so let's get into it. As Michelle mentioned, you know, we regularly acquire certifications. Google's constantly changing, so we want to be on top of that at all times, making sure we're on top of the new and latest trends, because those are going to give our clients competitive advantage. So typically we stick around Google. HubSpot's got a lot of good marketing certifications, but you know, we also dive into social media certifications, social media ad certifications, YouTube, Bing, and a lot of others. Very important to stay on top of all that and just continuously learn. So today we're going to talk about what SEO is, good companies versus bad, just some kind of flags that you can see there with the bad ones, and what you should look for with a good company that's going to do a good job and get you some ROI. Crafting the best SEO strategy for your business. SEO strategies in general, maintenance, leveraging data over time. We'll walk through an example website and audit, which should be pretty helpful. Maybe be able to apply some things to your website and get some thoughts going there. And throughout the presentation, I think as Michelle mentioned, you can message in the chat window, and I'll answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. So what is SEO? Take some notes here on your own if you'd like. What is SEO to you? What do you know about it? Does your business currently have an SEO strategy? If you do, has it worked so far? Do you have someone in-house or at an agency working for you? What challenges are you facing? And you're going to see some popular SEO memes throughout this presentation here. Kind of an ongoing joke is just if you're not on the first page, probably not getting a lot of traction. So best place to hide dead bodies on page 2 of the search results. We think that's pretty funny over here. Hope you enjoy it as well. So when you look at a search results page, and this is kind of a screen cap of just extending it all so we have it in one window here, there is a ton going on. So a lot to manage with all of this. You can see here we have, Google, this is a service industry search, in this case, HVAC Services Cincinnati. So we have Google guaranteed listings going on, which we actually have a blog about this. And as I mentioned, blogs, my team is going to send some links in the chat window if you'd like to check those out. We have a blog on how you can become Google guaranteed. Then you got ads, local listings here in the map pack. And then these are all organic listings that SEO can influence along with the map pack too. But these have more and more recently become populated with List, Yelp, Home Advisor, Angie's List. So those are all things that need to be considered in an SEO strategy as well. We do a lot of searches. We search for food, as you can see here, just for Chinese takeout, Cincinnati, 56.7 million results. And we have to think, why does my business deserve to be among the top in these results? That's part of what SEO is all about. We search for products. In this case, a little bit more narrowed down search here because it's more specific. So, if you search men's Nike Lunar Glides, probably have a few million results, but since it was narrowed down to a size, it's a little bit more specific. You get less results, eliminate some competition. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We search for services. Going back to the service industry here, 18.4 million results on a plumber Cincinnati search, and a lot going on. So SEO, what it is to us is it enables businesses to influence these search results. And take a second to think about what that could mean for your business. Being on that first page, being in the maps, whether you're a restaurant, service provider, really anything. Being on that first page for relevant searches can do a lot for your business and get a lot of traffic to your website. So the basics with SEO, SEO stands for search engine optimization. It basically works with your website to communicate with Google and increase relevant visibility online, to encourage conversions of your choice. That could be with an e-commerce business, sales and transactions, could be a form submission, maybe a request for quote, or maybe you just want people to download information, maybe a PDF brochure. We want to encourage that visibility and traffic for the right target audience coming into your website, and then we want to encourage conversions. And SEO can also be used to remove unwanted press or associations. Maybe your business changed names and you need to replace all of that and find consistency. These are all things that SEO addresses. And I'm going to blow up that little image here. This is Moz is a company well known in the SEO industry, and they kind of put this together, showing a pyramid bottom to top of what's essential to rankings and what is going to make you more and more competitive. So we kind of take a similar approach where we look for the fundamental items and we start with research and then taking care of those fundamental items, and then as time goes on, we continually improve. We get into deeper items that are more time consuming, but can also make your campaign more sustainable. So a couple of items on here, crawl accessibility, compelling content. If you've heard anything about SEO, you probably top 3 buzzwords associated with it are going to be backlinks, keywords, and maybe something with bots and crawlers. So really, simplifying this pyramid here for you, we just want to make sure that Google, or not even just Google, any search engine and their bots can easily access our site. We want to provide great content for them, and of course, more importantly, for users. And then we have to target it properly, or we're going to be bringing in the wrong people. And that's why research is so important, which we'll get into. All right, so Google bots, also known as spiders in some cases, these are a part of search engines that basically work with the algorithm. They crawl websites, they understand them, factor things into Google's algorithm, and basically decide where you get placed in the search results. So, you want to accommodate users, but it's also very important, and there's a lot of technical items with SEO to take care of Google bots as well. And Google's algorithm has progressed a lot over the years. It used to be really simple. I have a slide upcoming on that, but now it's really comprehensive. It looks to satisfy the searcher, piece together, pieces together bits of information, related topics, and uses metrics to better understand what searchers are looking for. If they go somewhere, is the content resonating with them? Things like that. And the reason we're touching on Google's algorithm here is that it's just really, really important, and there's constantly updates that you have to stay on top of, and that kind of ties back to why we stay up with certifications and are constantly learning. In 2018, there were over 3,000 little updates, and those updates aren't all actionable. They don't have actionable items we could take advantage of from there, but there are about 5 per year. They might be core algorithm updates or addressing something that has come up that they want to kind of clean up the search results. So for example, there was Panda a long time ago for content farming and thin content. So people would make websites, barely put any content on there, or they would pay companies to create a bunch of content that would help them come up at the top. And Google, of course, their whole goal is to satisfy searchers, make their lives easier. So they knew that basically people were finding websites and getting information that was basically not helpful or irrelevant. And in those cases, they identified that, released this update, and all those websites that were ranking well because they were content farming shot back down to the bottom of the search results with, they could put in something called a manual action, basically manually go in and say this site shouldn't rank. If that happens to you, you're in big trouble, and that's part of why it's so important to really vet your SEO company. Threw this in here, these bots are really important, and the algorithm is really important because there are a ton of websites out there. I believe this number is actually up to 1.8 or 9 billion now, constantly increasing. There's a fun little website out there. It's called Web Stats or Internet Stats, something like that, and fun to take a look at if you're looking for something to do in this quarantine. SEO is a long-term investment. This is my personal favorite meme right here. Yeah, if you can make us #1 on Google over the weekend, that'd be great. In a perfect world, I could do that for you. I'd probably be a multi-millionaire at this point if I was able to do that. But the reality is that SEO is a long-term investment, and you simply there's so many strategies that go into it. You're continually testing and improving, gathering data and leveraging that data. Like I said, the algorithm's always changing. So if you were to just drop what you were doing after an SEO campaign became successful, let's say you built up some traffic and then dropped off SEO, thought you didn't need it anymore, I'm 99% sure that by the end of the year, there's a good chance that your rankings would fall off quite a bit, just with everything that goes on and all the updates and competition. You don't know what they're doing. And we actually have an example of that that'll be coming up, of a case where someone dropped basically their SEO efforts, and it's an unfortunate case, but we'll get to that. So how SEO used to work. We have the beautiful Pam Anderson there in her heyday, and she was so popular when search engines kind of started that websites basically would, webmasters or SEOs would go in and stuff Pamela Anderson in the code or white text on a white background on a website on their homepage, and that would help them rank. And this is another thing that Google rolled out updates to address, but these are very black hat practices. If we were to go into the webFEAT complete website and put Pam Anderson in meta keywords and all in the code and do the white on white text background, Google would figure that out pretty quickly and penalize us severely. It's just not, it basically, at the time it was helping websites get more traffic, but a lot of that traffic was irrelevant, so it was essentially pointless. So this is an example of an older site that kind of tried to stuff, did a lot of spammy practices. You look at this website, what I see here, up at the top, the meta title, what appears as the link in the search results, it's got a lot going on. They're trying to just put keywords in there. It's too long. As you can see here, there's a ton of copy, just overwhelming. I got to the site and my heart started beating faster because there's just so much going on. Could spend a couple days cleaning this site up, but just not what you want to do at this point. There's no direction for the user, and that's simply not good. So now SEO works by communicating with search engines, providing high quality content that's going to satisfy searcher queries. So, think about when you go into the search results and you want to know the answer to a question. If you were to go in, do your search and you click through to a website and it basically gave you a bunch of roundabout information, didn't ultimately answer your question, you probably hit the back button, go back to the search results, and that wouldn't satisfy you, and that kind of throws a flag to Google. The whole premise kind of is, if you help search engines provide relevant search results, they're going to reward you and rank you higher. And then also, of course, be looking to help people on the internet. It's kind of a blend of that robot and user experience focus, but I would say if you want to pick one, definitely focus on the user, and it'll probably trickle down to the bots. So here's an example of a much cleaner current website. The navigation's very simple. If you need service or repairs, you go right there. If you're going to buy new products, maybe need an install, right there. Highlights that they're open 24 hours a day, do emergency service, been around for a while, got an easily accessible form, phone number. It's all right there. It's all very cleanly presented, and that's really what you want to do. A lot of times when I first look at a website, one of the first things I look at is this main navigation, and just, is it clean? Is anything need to be standing out more than another? Do you want to consolidate anything? Things like that. So, in this case, you could even simplify it further and make a drop down for the about section and put financing and blog in there if you wanted, something like that, to just simplify it further. And what that will do is kind of guide the user a little bit more, help them find what they're looking for, but also guide them to what you'd ideally like them to do within your funnel. So why should you consider SEO? Got a couple of graphs to start here and what we initially look for. This first graph is showing the number of search phrases ranking in the top 5 pages for a particular website. And then below that is a graph of impressions, which just means appearances in search. So when we start a campaign, you can't just go from not ranking at all or, having poor rankings to getting to the first page right away. We want to look at, we're doing the right targeting, we're growing your exposure in search, and then we're starting to get you into those top 5 pages and progress towards the first page. And then as time goes on, and what we look to accomplish more so, as I mentioned before, is growing conversions, like I said, whether that be form submissions, transactions, revenue, things like that. So here, just a couple of great examples of what we were able to do for some clients. This one actually was a little bit faster, started from scratch, no online revenue at all to start. And after 6 months, we were able to get their revenue up to $2,000 a month. And, as you can imagine, for a small business, especially with all this coronavirus stuff going on, that's, that can make a huge difference. And then below we have a client that we started doing some services on, including SEO, Google Ads. Basically, they started around $110,000 a month in online sales. And by the end of 2019, we were able to grow that to over $200,000. So, one thing to consider with this is everybody's different. Everyone has a unique starting point, a different level of competition, different goals, and that's all going to play a role into your SEO strategy, how fast we're able to accomplish these results, grow your traffic, and all of that. So when you're vetting an SEO company, you have to look for some things. There's really great SEO companies out there that, they're going to show you results. They're going to prove that they have experience. They're going to constantly be testing. They're going to be engaged with you, want to leverage data, and they're going to be constantly learning. On the other hand, there's the SEO companies that you should probably look to avoid. The ones that are low cost, the ones that say they'll have you ranking in weeks. They don't exhibit a long-term strategy or results of any kind. Those companies are usually just looking to make some quick money. And a lot of times, unfortunately, we've had clients come in where they left that client, and a lot of times they're locked into a contract too, something to be very careful of. They leave that client because they signed a contract and all of a sudden they're just kind of unresponsive, or they're not seeing any improvement, and the company won't really give too much feedback on that. Really seems illegal when you think about it, but just not good. So if you see some flags when you're looking for SEO companies and vetting them, definitely dig into those, and you should feel confident about the SEO company you're choosing. If you get a bad one, it can hurt, can cost a lot of money, and ultimately not give you any return on your investment. And that's the whole name of the game with marketing. So crafting the best SEO strategy for your business is the next section. So for your particular business, this is how we go about creating a strategy. And that starts with your goals, which is like the third or fourth time I've mentioned this already, but very important to hone in on your goals, because that's what's going to determine if your campaign is successful or not. So like I said, form submissions, transactions, revenue, set specific numbers down, set those goals specifically, and that'll help everyone work towards the same goal, ultimately accomplish it, and then those goals can be raised or elevated a little bit. Who's your online competition? What are they doing? Do they have good rankings? Are they ranking for a lot of phrases? Are those phrases relevant? They run Google Ads, any social media efforts that they're taking advantage of, newsletters. And we often find that there's more competition out there than our customers think. Of course, we all have primary competitors that we pay attention to, but if you take a look in the search results, let's say you do air conditioning repair. So you go into the search results, and this is part of what we do with our research when we start up. We search air conditioning repair Cincinnati. All of a sudden, you see your top couple of competitors there, and then below that, there's all these other guys, or in the map pack, all these other people you've never even heard of. And those are people we need to pay attention to. So that's another reason why SEO is kind of an ongoing effort and a long-term investment, because you're constantly having to check in on search results, check in on your competition. Are they changing their strategy? We can kind of derive some insights from competition too. So it's something very important to pay attention to at the start and throughout your campaign. And are you prepared? A successful SEO campaign can do a lot for a business as far as growth goes, down to the bottom line. So In certain cases, we showed those ones before. If you're increasing sales $100,000 a month, it's very possible you may end up needing to have more of a team to accommodate that growth and that demand and everything. Maybe you're getting more form submissions that need to be addressed, or if you have a live chat window, somebody needs to be paying attention to that. And if SEO is going well and you're growing, it can be, if you're not prepared for that, it can get overwhelming, and you might not be able to accommodate prospective customers, which can kind of backfire, and then all that SEO effort that was put in might not be lost, but you can't really take advantage of it. So, not saying that every business that does SEO all of a sudden has a huge blow up of revenue and need for team members, things like that, but it's something that needs to be considered when you're starting a campaign. All right, so let's get into an example here. First example, it's a B2C and a B2B asphalt paving company, and their goal was to get more quote requests. So our steps to achieve that, we wanted to improve the quality of site traffic, so kind of weed out anything that was irrelevant to them. In their case, they only do asphalt, no concrete. So we saw that they were basically appearing for a lot of concrete searches and getting clicks, but those, ultimately when people visited the site, they weren't finding what they were looking for, or this company was getting requests that they basically had to say, hey, we don't do concrete. So we wanted to get rid of that, and that improved some metrics as well. That helped us to improve rankings and site traffic, and from there receive more quote requests. We work with them on a new website, Google Ads and SEO, and it's helped us to basically get to a point. We've been working with them for maybe even over 10 years at this point, and we're at the point now where with Google Ads, we go in, we set their budget. In the winter, we have kind of a winter fall budget, or just off budget. And then, come January, February, we start to ramp up that budget, and they've literally gotten booked out the past 3 summers, I think. So at that point, we get the word that, hey, we're booked out, take the budget back down, and then we kind of leave it there for exposure. So as as your campaign goes on, we get close with our clients, and we better understand their business, and we can make those decisions or have things prepared that can basically put us ahead of the curve as far as other competitors go, and give you a huge strategic advantage. So for this client, you might be initially thinking, why are there all these bumps? They're seasonal paving company, so spring, summer is the heart of their business, and that's where you'll see these peaks here. So we have a Google Analytics users graph, and as you can see, year over year, we significantly increased that, and 2020 was off to a really hot start this year. And then in Google Ads, just showing the conversions, what's our form submissions, you can also see the peaks and the growth in those peaks over time. So SEO, Google Ads, and just digital marketing in general has done a lot for this business in helping it gain some stability, and really be able to kind of predict what's going to happen in their peak season, and better manage marketing dollars and all of that good stuff. So our second example is a B2B testing products company, and they were starting from scratch. So wanted to get quality traffic to the site, and ramp up online sales. And our steps to achieve this were to grow site traffic, relevant site traffic, and do that by improving rankings in the right places. And from there, generate more sales, which, we utilize strategies like conversion rate optimization, which one of our team members will share that if they have not already. But, just optimizing around certain things in the checkout process. If you're an e-commerce business and we have all of the fundamentals in place, and we start to get it into the more, kind of in-depth SEO efforts, we're going to look at the checkout process. We're going to look at the funnel. Can we pick up a newsletter subscriber along the way in the case that they're not actually going to make a purchase, so we can, send out a newsletter with newsletter marketing and stay top of mind, remind someone that, hey, you put this in your cart. come back and we'll give you a 10% discount or something like that that can encourage sales and improve your conversion rate. So a lot you can do there. They also did Google Ads, and we built that website for them. And the results have been great. You know, as you can see here, a steady growth in users over the past couple of years, from nothing to nearly 600 users a month. So really great to see. And then as far as revenue goes, basically non-existent to start, and at one point almost got up to 3,000 a month. That was a big kind of really early spike. Didn't expect it to spike that early, so that was great. And you know, if you put a trend line on this, it's clearly increasing. In just, you know, less than a year, from basically nothing to over $2,000 a month in revenue. Big deal for a small business, and just something really valuable. So let's take a deeper dive into the strategies that drive the success of an SEO campaign. I kind of touched on conversion rate a little bit, but we'll run through all of these strategies here. And you know, those tracking, research always at the start, fundamental improvement to give you that foundation to rank. Working on, when we say content management, that could be working on blogs, updating or republishing old content, creating new content. All that needs to be taken into consideration. Listing and mention work for local rankings and trying to get in that map pack. User experience, conversion rate optimization, backlink acquisition, maintenance. And I did want to make a note here. There's going to be different strategies, and those strategies are going to change throughout a campaign. There's always things being thrown at us, or things that should be prioritized over others to maximize your success. And that's, we always prioritize, you know, what's going to give you the highest impact in the shortest amount of time. And we kind of prioritize like that. So let's start out with tracking. You can't make any improvements, database improvements, if you don't have any tracking in place. So when we start with clients, the first thing we do is we make sure that tracking is established, or we implement it, or maybe even update it to make sure that it's on point. We use Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, a platform, SEO platform called SEMrush. It's really great, and another one called SpyFu, which I would encourage everybody to go check out SpyFu. Maybe type in your domain or a competitor domain, and it'll show you a little bit of that traffic information. I referenced the graph in the beginning here. It'll give you this graph, and you can expand it from 6 months to 5 years, all time. Just some really, we've shared it with clients and they found it quite interesting. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you have some time. But all those, basically all that tracking allows us to gather data and then make informed decisions from that data, which is just really important to actually making improvements, showing that progression, and creating a sustainable growth plan with your SEO campaign. And here's some examples of just what things can look like in Google Analytics. You know, if you're an e-commerce business and you have e-commerce tracking set up, can show the number of transactions, average order value, your conversion rate, revenue, all of that. And we kind of enter that by entering, e-commerce is a little bit different, but then, you know, if you're looking to track form submissions or the number of clicks on an email link or telephone number, we also track that. We basically set it up in Google Tag Manager, set it up as a goal in Google Analytics based on the information we entered in Tag Manager. And all of that information will populate in easily in Google Analytics, and you can explore that. You could spend days just looking at your website's information in Google Analytics. And Jake, if you wouldn't mind, please also share the UTM tracking blog. That's just another big thing right now. If you look at Google Analytics, there's a lot of direct none, basically like an uncategorized traffic. And it's usually one of the biggest portions of your traffic. So to get rid of that, you can use UTM tracking. It's another way, you know, let's say you send out a newsletter campaign and you're linking to a quote page. You could implement UTM tracking, which is just basically some stuff on the end of a website URL. And then it will show up very clearly in Google Analytics under the campaign section, and you can attribute, the form submissions you got back to that newsletter, or back to the search results, things like that. There's a lot you can do in Google Analytics. Research. Touched on this a little bit, but we always start with research, and it's really ongoing. We need to do base research to understand, put in some fundamentals like that meta information that appears in the search results. And I'm going to bring up meta information a lot, so I do want to show very quickly. Let's see, webFEAT complete search here. This is the meta title, and this is the meta description, and you can edit those on all pages to basically make sure that you have you're targeting appropriately in whatever category you're targeting. So, for webFEAT Complete, we wanted to target internet marketing agency for growth. So we put that in our main title. Our SEO page might target SEO services or something like that. And those are very important at the start of an SEO campaign. But we look into the search results to see, what should that title be? What should the description be? What are the points of difference that people care about most that we can say, free shipping or 30 years of experience, things of that nature. Of course, there's the competitor analysis, keyword and backlink gaps, which we'll talk about in a second, and just looking at what's going on in the search results. Are there ads in there? Are people bidding on your brand name? Do we need to bid on your brand name and make sure that you're appearing first above that competitor that's trying to steal some of your traffic? There's just a lot to look at there, and this gives us a clear view of our target audience, helps us target better. And over time, as we gather data, we can kind of look back at our Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and see, are some of our title tags creating internal competition? Is some of our content creating internal competition? And doing the research helps you weed that out sooner than later, and get off to a head start, basically. So, some of the things we look at in the search results are people also ask section. These can give you some ideas of what you want to target in your content, or maybe could give you some ideas for an updated blog post. And the same goes for searches related to, in this case, it's Nike shoes, but kind of gives you an idea of what people are searching for, what they're interested in, and you can attack all of that or strategically link to different sections of content from the landing page of your website to make sure that people can browse your site, enjoy browsing your site, and find all the information they're looking for. And on a competitor note, as I mentioned, the keyword and backlink gap. So this basically is, with our software, if you have a particular competitor that you want to outperform, then we can go in, we can type in their domain and your domain, and we can find what search phrases they're ranking for that you're not, or maybe what they're ranking for better than you. And that can create a lot of opportunities for content and narrow in on targeting and what's going to end up making the biggest impact on your business and helping to get a bigger piece of the pie ultimately. So fundamental improvement. And I'm going to check in the chat here real quick and just make sure we're all good and not having any technical difficulties or anything, which I don't think we are. Yeah, I think we look good. So there we go. That gave me a little bit of a delay there. Sorry about that, everyone. Oh, thanks, Natalie. All right. So next part, fundamental improvement. So, you have to establish a foundation for your rankings. If you don't have that foundation, you get a lot of inconsistencies down the road. There could be something that you weren't paying attention to that's basically limiting your success. So we want to make sure that the fundamentals are in place, and these really address more of the technical behind the scenes issues, and then put in kind of, especially in that meta information, the right phrases that get you in front of the right people. So if you have the right meta information in, and you're using certain things like there's something called a sitemap or a robots.txt file that basically allows you to directly communicate with search engine robots. If you have that all set up properly, you make it very easy for bots to crawl your site, and your targeting appears to be appropriate and relevant to the users you're trying to target. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to grow your rankings, traffic, and conversions faster and more consistently if this is in place. So something that we always do and pay attention to. And kind of going back to that Nike example, a good example with meta information is you don't want to be too broad. People think that you should target the highest volume search phrase and that's going to help you rank and get more traffic, and that's not the case. So example I always use, if you're Nike, let's say, you don't want to just, maybe for your category, you might target men's shoes, but you want to break down your website hierarchy and have specific sections. And we could do a whole webinar on that, but basically, you want to have sections that are more specific. We call these long tail keywords. So instead of targeting Nike men's lunar glide, you want to target in your meta information Nike men's lunar glide, maybe sizes X through X, maybe 6 through 12, something like that. And those will all go a long way and help you. Really, when you compare the number of, basically with long tail phrases, if you compare those broad searches like men's shoes compared to all the long-term or long tail variants like Nike men's lunar glide, Nike women's lunar glide, all of those, the variants in those longer keywords make up a much bigger percentage of searches. I think it's actually like a 90 to 10% ratio. So something to consider. You get rid of a lot of competition when you more narrowly target, long story short. And then just some examples here of fundamental improvement. As I said, the meta information, you can enter that into the code for each page. That'll help a lot, helps improve some engagement metrics too. This is an example of a sitemap. We submit this to Google Search Console, and basically it helps, it says to Google, hey, this is our website. These are the pages on it. Check them as often as you can, or you can set how often you want them to look at your website. And that goes into making things easier for the robots. And then also just, there's always going to be somebody that mistypes something in a URL, or, a page might break by mistake. So there's fun ways to improve things for the users, like Amazon. They allow you to go back to the homepage, and they kind of incorporated the dogs of their employees, and they even made a section on it. So a lot of fun little things you can do that can improve user experience. And we really have to pay attention to satisfying bots in the beginning. So then there's content management. And if you've ever looked at any SEO information or have been sent a newsletter or something on SEO, you probably hear about content, maybe the phrase content is king. And content really is king. If you don't have good content, Google doesn't want to rank you. You're not going to be able to satisfy the searcher. And it also, how you present each type of content on your website affects the way people flow through your website and how they interact with it and progress through your funnel. So content could be a blog, could be a page of content, could be an image, a video, and really you can't just create content anymore. You kind of have to have a plan. So for example, with webFEAT, if we're going to write a blog, we're not just going to write that blog, post it, and let it sit there and hope that Google just ranks us high enough that it'll get some visibility. We're going to post that blog. We're going to put it on our business listing, share it on social media. We might try to make an associated YouTube video and create some linking there. Basically, the more content you create, the better, but it has to be high quality. And you can't just create content and then let it sit. If you have a blog on your website that's 5 years old, let's say, it's probably becoming outdated, and Google can see that it's not a fresh piece of content. So you'll need to regularly go in, update that content, keep it fresh. And in the case it becomes irrelevant, you could take it down, basically unpublish it and redirect it to the most relevant page on your site, and it will pass some of that value that it's accrued over time. And the whole premise behind this, that little bottom bullet, satisfy the searcher. You want your content to basically go above and beyond in answering all the questions that someone might have related to a product or service, and you know, even try to predict some of what they might not even realize they want to know once they learn some other bits of information. And that's the kind of content that will get you ranking on the first page. So a example here, I mentioned hierarchy. There's something called content silos. So, you know, in Nike's case, it could be something like shoes, men's, women's, different styles, et cetera, until you get to the specific product. And by building out that specific structure, and this is more important to bigger websites, e-commerce websites specifically, then Google understands what pages are important, how the site all ties together, and that ultimately, and usually that also helps users understand the site. And, you know, if you're browsing on Nike's website and you go to, you get to a certain type of shoe that you're looking at and you can select your size, you'll see up in the address bar that it might be like nike.com/men's/running/lunar glide/ finally the product name, you know, 2019 lunar glide something. So having that, best case, you can just, if you have a new website, you can build that out. But if you're redesigning a website, we can kind of work with our design team to plan that out, make sure the URLs are friendly to bots and users, and that the site has a good structure that can naturally be built upon over time, and that'll go a long way for you. I have an old post here, 2015, so that's a post that needed to be updated. You know, if I'm searching for information on the internet and I see that the date in the search results is like 2015, like in this case, or, you know, just a while ago, I'm not going to be 100% confident that the information is still relevant. And that's part of why Google cares about content freshness now. And then that circle just really touches on how you can't just post something and let it go. You got to amplify it. And that'll have residual benefits to your SEO campaign as well. So for local businesses, if that's important to you and you want to appear in the maps, or, you know, geo-modified searches. So when I say geo-modified, just adding, let's say, Cincinnati on the end. You need to pay attention to certain little things. Your general SEO efforts are going to be helpful, but there's local SEO efforts that can be really helpful too. So one of the things is name, address, and phone number. You want those to be as consistent as possible across listings. So, you know, it should be the same on your website and the header and footer, on your Yelp listing, your Google My Business listing, Bing Places, all of those. You want to keep consistent information basically, and that will help out. And you want to utilize all those listings to their fullest potential. So, you know, if you go into Yelp, you can claim your basic page and set some things up, but there's so much more that you can do there that can give you a competitive edge, and also give you a local boost with that. So really important. You want to get some local backlinks. You know, that might be from a, you know, maybe a news outlet, a local news outlet, some business you're working with locally. Maybe you did some work for a nonprofit, or worked with charity, or volunteered, something like that. All of that can ultimately get you a local focused backlink that can promote your local rankings. And really one of the best things you can get into is the Google Business listing. They've really enabled a lot of features, including even listing products and product categories. So there's a lot that you can utilize with every business listing. Make sure you're taking advantage of that in full. And ultimately that can help you occupy more real estate in the search results. So you might be, let's say you're running an ad campaign, you're doing some local focused SEO and just general SEO. You could potentially, you could come up over 4 times technically in the search results at least. So, you know, you could have an ad up top, you could appear in the local map pack, you could have a YouTube video potentially if it's relevant, and then you could have a normal organic listing to your website. So that's another thing, when you get into more advanced strategies, you can start strategically occupying more of a search results page to make it more likely for someone to click to your website instead of someone else, which is clearly beneficial. So something to consider. And here's an example of a local HVAC company that has, another item is generating reviews. You want to have good reviews, of course. People are becoming more and more conscious of that. I'm sure, like me, many of you have wanted to go to a restaurant. You do a search, and if you see that it has, 3.2 out of 5 stars, and the most recent 3 or 1 out of 5, and they say that the chicken was served raw, you're probably not going to be too inclined to go there. So, just taking advantage of, you want to have a review plan in place to, let's say service is completed. There's a way that they can automatically send something out, get someone to leave them a Google review, make sure all this information's input, update your hours for holidays. Right now you can actually update your business listing for COVID-19. There's another blog on that, Jake, if you wouldn't mind sharing. If Jake's the one sharing, sorry if you're not. Yeah, so local listings, really important. Let's see here. I guess I'm getting a little close on time, so I'll try to speed up just a little bit here. Backlinks, as I mentioned, this is kind of like one of those things that's associated with SEO you commonly hear about, but they're time consuming and they take a lot of work to get. So you can get them from listings, directories, news stories, articles, businesses you work with if you're a partner and they list you on your website and link back to yours. And just to be clear, a backlink, all it is another website linking to yours. And that just makes Google see you as more authoritative. It also gives additional avenues for prospective customers to get to your website too. I won't touch too much on this since I already talked about conversion rate optimization, optimizing that checkout process. But basically, user experience conversion rate optimization work, we can look at metrics, see if people are leaving pages frequently, if they're not engaging with part of the page as much, working to implement and test certain call to action buttons, improving the checkout process, and that's going to increase engagement metrics that help your ranking, but it's also going to narrow your funnel and make it more likely for users to convert, which is huge, and can increasing that conversion rate can, of course, help you get more conversions and drive those leads or revenue. And here's some examples. Here we have a main navigation where clearly this sticks out. You could click that request a quote button at any point on the website since it's in the main navigation, and it's evident that it's there. Then we have, in an e-commerce example, continue shopping, go to cart, once something is added, just making it really easy to navigate back and forth. And then a good big call to action on an e-commerce homepage saying free shipping, over $89 and shop now. And it was amazing when we put that in, the amount of sales that started to get generated more consistently. So sometimes you make those changes, nothing happens, and you need to test something else. Other times it works really well. You could still test something against it just to, for due diligence purposes, but those little changes can make a world of difference in an SEO campaign. And of course, maintenance. Once we're successful, we can't just forget about the website. We have to routinely crawl the site, make sure there's not any broken links. That's a big flag for Google. If you're linking to let's say we wrote a blog post and we link to some external websites, basically giving them backlinks, they may have updated their website address or added an SSL, so HTTPS instead of HTTP. And then that creates an unnecessary redirect that bots don't like. So we check in on things like that. And then just stay on top of algorithm updates, leveraging data, all really important for your long-term success. Like I said, you can't just do an SEO campaign, stop, and expect results to continue. To go along with that, as I mentioned, the HTTPS, a big thing that's come along lately is ADA. So, this red dotted box helps folks with disabilities be able to browse websites as any anyone would. And just lots of things like that that come up constantly that you need to adapt to. And that's really why you can't stop. And another big one was the mobile preferred. So Google saw growth in mobile usage, and they started to penalize websites that weren't mobile friendly. And we had a client where we saw this coming, we recommended it, and unfortunately the recommendation was not taken advantage of. We had built up rankings significantly, and there were 2 mobile updates that came through. First one didn't really do anything. The second one, it was like a warning. The second one came through, and no new mobile friendly website, and it was just a big time slide that basically set them back 4 or 6 years of SEO progress. So you can't stop your SEO campaign. Ideally, you want to keep it going, and it should be a part of your long-term strategy that's going to bring you a direct return on investment. And just a quick thing to touch on with that and the tracking, that e-commerce data we showed you or a form submission, we can sort that and show you this came from organic searches or organic search traffic, or this came from a social media ad, things like that, whether you're using just the tracking we set up, UTM tracking. So we always want to be able to show you that and make sure that you can see the return on investment you're getting. And over time, you can make your strategy more and more robust. If you're growing, let's say again, the HVAC example, if you're growing and you've kind of reached your goal and you want to get some more leads, you can start doing newsletters, reminding all the people that you have emails with. You can remind them, hey, take care of maintenance now. I'll probably save you a lot of money if you're, instead of having your unit breakdown, and that could bring in a lot of recurring, maybe your maintenance is set up as recurring revenue, or increase one-time sales a little bit. And then there's also lots of other things you can do. Radius targeting, which there's a blog on that as well. I'm not sure if it's been shared yet, but that if your business wants a boost, maybe if you're an HVAC company, you see that there's a few new developments in the area, you can put a radius around those developments and create ads for, hey, we can install HVAC systems in, new development. You can get that specific. We've had a lot of success with that. We also can, know when it's time to redesign and make sure your site's not getting outdated. Touch on this a bit, just leveraging data for refined targeting. We're going to look at all of these metrics that basically indicate if bots are happy, if users are happy, and from there, we're just continually improving, and we're building and making decisions based off data. And when you do that, you tend to have success. So I'll walk through this audit pretty quickly. Have a friend out in California. He's a photographer, and took a look at his website for him. He built it himself. So, this is, it's a thorough website and everything. It's a great example. Not like a service industry website or anything by any means, but it has a lot of good examples of how you can improve. And that's why I picked to put it in this slideshow. So, first on the home page, he's got this great big image. Shows, you want that to be the focus. If you're a photographer, you want to have a big image. Normally I'd like to have a little bit of content above the fold before you scroll down. But in this case, I think it makes a lot of sense. And one of my recommendations was, he has services here, but he doesn't have a drop down. So there's he has different pages, but it's making it harder for people to get to their specific desired photography service. So let's say corporate events, I think is one of his sections. Instead of having to click services and then to corporate events, could just have a drop down, get straight there. And that would also send some messages to Google's bots as well. So made a recommendation to update that. On that services page, services is very general. Lots of companies out there with services. I would tell them, hey, you should put something like photography services, or if he's looking for a local focus, Orange County photography services. Lots of improvement there. And then you get into specific pages. He's got event photography and image, book now, all pretty good, but he's got corporate spelled wrong here. It just says events in the title tag, and it says Justin's photos instead of just-in-time photography. So things that he needs to update, he needs to have that consistent branding, he needs to make sure that this page is targeted properly. If he changes this to event photography, or maybe you do some research and find corporate event photography might be the best thing to target, he's going to have much less competition, and the meta title that appears in search results, people are going to say, oh, he does corporate event photography, this is what I want, and a much better chance for them to click through there. And then this is further down one of those interior pages. It has some good stuff on here, but to me, it wasn't really 100% clear that it was for photography for this, to boost your brand and get noticed without digging. And really, I get pretty nitpicky just because I'm doing this all the time, but you want to make sure that everything is as easy as possible for users when they're visiting your site. Then this is his footer. It's just a big blank section pretty much. So we would want to update that to be something like this, have some contact information, key pages, and if somebody scrolls to the bottom of the page, they could just as easily navigate wherever they want to go next. I liked this page, but he's got /contact up there. I would change that to /pricing as the website address. And I liked how he laid out all this very transparent pricing and easy call to action to book now. And he still has he's from Cleveland. He still has a 216 number up there. And for local purposes, you can get a Google Voice number and have it forward to your cell phone number or business phone number. And that can give you a local phone number that can increase your local presence. It's going to be harder for him to rank for photography searches if he has a 216 number than if he had a Orange County's area code. Contact us, a little bit of alignments off here. So I would fix that, and maybe input some local, contact me for photography services in Newport Beach or something like that. And again, that all ties to your business listing and sends local signals. And with forms in general, you want to simplify them and make it as easy for someone to convert as possible. Did a crawl of his website just to make sure that everything was good, no redirects or broken links. Filled out a form, tested it, and it was good, but he, again, Justin's photos should be just-in-time photography. Always have to look at mobile. That's being indexed first now, so his mobile site was great, but that's something to pay attention to as well. He didn't have any tracking in place. We have a little toolbar extension that helps us track or see if someone has a Google Analytics code, remarketing code, anything like that on their website. So that's just kind of an overview of what we saw there. Just walk through it, so I won't really touch too much on that. And wrapping up, SEO is a great strategy because it can make your brand look trustworthy online. It can help you increase qualified prospects and leads to your website. It can increase sales, and ultimately it can deliver return on your investment and help a business to grow and scale. So what is SEO? Referring back to that initial slide, SEO to us is a detailed, research-backed, long-term digital strategy that enables businesses to influence search results in order to meet their goals. And at webFEAT, we're proud to offer pretty much everything you could want for online marketing. That goes, we can build a website, we can host it, and we can market it online. So we offer that full suite of services, and we've really worked to become more kind of all-inclusive over time so that we have the flexibility to do what we know is going to work best for our customers, and just really put brands where they need to be, and that just helps them to be successful. Being able to leverage all of those strategies and have the flexibility to kind of turn campaigns on and off on a dime. So we have Michelle mentioned we're going to be doing some more webinars. If you go to webfeatcomplete.com, there's events is in the main navigation, so you can get there and register for our upcoming Social Media Simplified with Justin on May 20th, and then I think it's Jeremy, either Jeremy or Corey will be doing the hosting and web security presentation on June 3rd, all at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. So would love to have you all back for that. And of course, follow us on social media. We shared about 5 blogs just in this presentation, and we've been trying to create a lot of content that's really helpful to business owners and also digital marketers. So we'd love